Motorola has just introduced its new foldable devices. We are talking about the Razr 50 series, which includes the Ultra model and the base model. In this video, I tell you my first impressions about them. Let's get started. These devices have been presented in Brooklyn, New York, and we have been able to have access to them. So let me tell you about the specifications of both, because although on the outside they look very similar, there are important differences that you will have to get to know. Let's start with the Razr 50 Ultra, a device that stands out a lot for the size of its external screen. It's a very large screen, possibly the largest in a vertical format folding device today. By the way, here at the front it has Gorilla Glass Victus to protect it, and on the back we find synthetic leather to give it a nice finish in 4 different shades of color. As always, Motorola chooses quite attractive colors, and this will be no exception. It is a very well designed device. In addition, the frame is made of extremely high strength aluminum. This device has a thickness of 7.09 millimeters when unfolded and weighs 189 grams. And something that I loved is that they now offer IPX8 level of water resistance, so it can even be submerged and it's going to hold up, something that to date few foldables could enjoy, and now Motorola joins that select list. So the design is very nice, the hinge obviously has no gap at all, and in the case of this external display we're talking about a size of 4 inches and a resolution of 1272 by 1080 pixels, reaching 417 pixels per inch. It's an LTPO display capable of going up to 165 Hz, so it seems to me even excessive refresh rate for the external display, but it will look spectacular. It even supports HDR10 plus content. It has 10-bit color depth, so I insist that it's a completely spectacular display. In fact, its peak brightness is 2400 nits, so it's a screen capable of displaying content in a very good way, even when the sun is in front of it. It also integrates stereo sound, and with respect to the internal screen, we are going to find 6.9 inches in size. We are talking about full HD plus resolution, with LTPO technology as well, capable of reaching 165 Hz, and in this case its peak brightness is 3000 nits, so it's a little bit brighter screen than the external one, but both share a very good resolution and a very good refresh rate. The front camera of this device is 32 megapixels. Although applying quad-pixel technology, the pictures will come out with 8 megapixels in its resolution with automatic mode, but remember that you can adjust this to your liking in the settings. It has an f-aperture 2.4 and fixed focus, while on the external part is where the most interesting part comes, because the main camera is 50 megapixels with f-aperture 1.7, so it's going to give us very good lighting. It also has optical stabilization, so for nights I think it's going to have excellent results. And the second camera is the one I like the most, because in vertical folding phones we usually see a proposal of main camera and ultra-wide camera. But in this case they bet on main camera and telephoto camera. So this camera is 50 megapixels as well, with f-aperture 2.0, the optical zoom is 2x approximately. Although it does not have optical stabilization, and that could play against it a little bit, but it is very nice to see a telephoto camera in a vertical folding, which is where usually this type of folding have difficulty in achieving a good quality zoom. In fact, it even lets you take portraits at different focal lengths like 24, 35, 50 and 85 millimeters, because they take very good advantage of these high resolution sensors. So it will have to be put to the test, but right off the bat it looks like it will have very good quality. In fact, all the cameras can record in 4K at 60 frames per second, including the front camera, which is also very remarkable. This device comes with a 4 mAh battery and supports a 45 watt load. Interestingly, the 68 watt charger is included in the box, but the maximum charge it supports is 45 watts. In addition, it does include wireless charging and also has reversible wireless charging. In this case, it supports 15 watts wireless charging and 5 watts of reversible charging, so it's a top-of-the-line device within the foldable category. It comes with Android 14 and the Motorola layer, through which we find several added features such as a wallpaper generator with artificial intelligence based on your clothes or your outfit, so that it can match perfectly well with your style. And remember that lately it has other add-ons also through the Moto Secure app, and generally everything added can be found in its Moto app, so the system is very well organized to discover the additional functions, and honestly I find it very attractive. Of course, it includes Google Gemini with all the artificial intelligence, and also soon Moto AI with even more features will be available. But we already see a lot of artificial intelligence in this device within the camera and other elements of the software. By the way, it does have fingerprint reader on the side as expected, and regarding the processor and everything that has to do with performance, we will find Snapdragon 8S Gen 3, a processor very similar to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. So it has a good power, although it's not the most powerful thing out there, but for a vertical folding it's pretty good. Also, it comes in 12 gigabytes of RAM for Mexico, although this may vary for other countries, and we're talking about LPDDR-RX RAM, and the storage is 512 gigabytes in its UFS 4.0 version. So all in all, it should achieve very good power, although we will have to see that it also gets to cool, because generally the vertical folding ones that we have tested have had a bit of complications when it comes to handling heat. But now let me tell you all about the Motorola Razr 50, which is the base edition. It retains several features though, so let me just tell you about the differences. For starters, the most obvious one is that the external display is not as spectacular, although it's still very good. It is 3.6 inches in size, so it has a slightly larger bezel at the top, but it still covers much of the front. This screen is also OLED with a resolution of 1056 by 1066 pixels. It also supports HR10 Plus content, has 10-bit depth, but its refresh rate is 90 Hz, unlike the Ultra model. So in this case, we will also see a lower power consumption, but it will not look so spectacular. The internal display is exactly the same, and by the way, regarding the design, we will also find Gorilla Glass Victus to protect this external display and synthetic leather for the back cover. In this case, it is available in a different color palette than what we see in the Ultra model, but they are still quite nice colors. In this case, it is a bit thicker, being 7.25 millimeters thick when unfolded, and slightly heavier, reaching 188 grams, but it retains the IPX8 level of water resistance, so it can be submerged, which is very good considering that it is the basic foldable of the series. The front camera is exactly the same, the main camera too, but there is a difference in the secondary camera, which is not telephoto but ultra-wide with autofocus, so it can also work as a macro camera. We are talking about a 13 megapixel sensor with f2.2 aperture. Likewise, all cameras can record in 4K, but in this case up to 30 frames per second, unlike the Ultra model that goes up to 60. And curiously, in this model we see more battery, having a capacity of 4200 milliamperes, although it supports 30 watts load, and again, interestingly included in the box is a 33 watt charger. But it also supports 15 watt wireless charging, although it doesn't have reversible wireless charging, so as you realize there are some small cutbacks, but overall it maintains very good essence of what its big brother has. And obviously, having such a large external display, they let you place widgets there, different types of covers and customization, applying photos with different masks, and as I told you also, the wallpaper generator with artificial intelligence will be pretty good. And with regard to the processor, there is another cut, possibly this is the most important, since this model integrates the MediaTek Dimensity 7300X, a processor that, according to what I managed to remember, we have not tested, but it should be good, although I do not think it is as powerful as the Snapdragon 8S Gen 3. In this case, it comes with 12 gigabytes of RAM for Mexico, but as I tell you, it may vary in other regions. And it is the LPDDR4X, unlike the Ultra model, which has a faster RAM. Regarding storage, we found 512 gigabytes for Mexico, but it may vary in other countries, and it's UFS 2.2, so the RAM, the storage, and the processor are much simpler. So I don't think it will reach a very high power, but for a good number of people who don't require that much power, this device will give you a very solvent performance. Let me know what you think of these devices, because they look very interesting. We will be testing them in much more depth later. For now, it has been a first look and approach, but they look like very strong competitors for the folding market in vertical format. And by the way, before we say goodbye, the price of the Ultra model is already available in Mexico. It will be 24,999 pesos. On the screen, you see the reference price in other currencies, just to give you an idea, but remember that the prices here are not the same as over there. In the case of the Motorola Razr, there is still no price announced, but it will be available in the coming weeks. The overall price of the Ultra model is 1,119 euros, as remember that prices can vary greatly in different regions, but at least that's the reference I can give you. The base model has an advertised price for Europe of 899 euros. On the screen you can see the reference price in other currencies to give you an idea, and as I said, in the coming weeks the official price for Mexico will be announced and I will be telling you about it soon. By the way, Motorola also presented its new Moto tag, which will be this tag to keep track of your stuff, compatible with the entire Android network. We'll try it out a bit later, but for now it looks interesting to complement the Motorola ecosystem. And they also have the Motobots Plus that they showed during this presentation. As I tell you, confirming that Motorola will be extending their ecosystem a little bit more, which is something we were asking for, and it looks like they are delivering. So this has been a first look. I hope you liked this video. If you did, you know you can tell us about it, and we'll see you next time.